Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar where we're talking about planning the next 30 days, getting the business back on track to hopefully full flight within the very near future. So before we start, can I just ask, can you all hear me? Can you raise a hand if you can hear me? Brilliant, thank you. And I take it you can see the screen. Could you raise a hand again if you can see the screen? Fantastic. Well, without further ado, then we'll crack on. So really what we're talking about here is the 11 steps that we should be taking in our businesses in order to take advantage of the situation as the markets open back up. So if we look at the first slide, we've really got an overview of the journey so far, this pandemic so far. You can see that coming into March, the economy's taken a nosedive. We've gone into lockdown and sales dived along with the economy. Now, throughout the period of April, May, and what's left of June, you can see now that we're starting to pick up again. Markets are starting to open, shops are starting to open, as from this week, actually. And we are now really at a bit of a crossroads because this is the point at which we have to say decisions to make. So it's a really crucial point for businesses. The actions we take over the next few weeks will really determine our whole year and may even determine whether some of us survive or not. So the message really is clear. It's about planning the right actions and executing with absolute consistency. So step one of our planning is communications planning. Now, this is really about making sure that everyone around us is ready to come on this journey with us. So first of all, our team. Our staff and anyone connected with helping our business go forward, are they ready to get back into work? Let's not forget they've had a tough time as well. So what do they need in order to get back into work? What about our suppliers? Are they ready to underpin our business? Are they in a position where they can support us as we ramp our sales back up? What about creating buy-in? Those around us that are important and integral to the business, we need them to be buying into the future movement that we're taking on. So with that in mind, the wider stakeholder network, where else might there be help from some of those people? So in our wider networks, people that we may not necessarily do business with, but have an interest in our business, an interest in making sure our business survives, where might there be some help from these types of connections? And what about us personally, as individuals? We all go through, and this is a model of the reactions that we go through when things change. And you can see that at the beginning of the graph there, something unexpected happens. We're in shock. We move from shock to denial. And as the reality sets in, we face anger and frustration and potentially depression until eventually we accept and start problem solving. So at this stage in the game, we should all be now in the problem solving phase. Why is that? Well, because we're about to get going again. Problem solving has a proactive focus. So as a team in a business, there is nothing more powerful than coming together as a team and problem solving the problems that are in front of us. Okay, this is characterized by planning our activity as the markets open back up. So it's about deciding when is it cost viable to bring our staff back from furlough. So, you know, if we can only open up to a certain extent, we're going to incur costs in the business. Are the sales we're going to make likely to cover our costs and make it worthwhile bringing our staff back from furlough? So when is that going to happen? There's a point at which this will happen for all businesses. When will it happen for your business? And in order to know that, do you know your daily or unit sale break even? So what do we need to sell with one member staff back at work to make ends meet? What about with 2 members back? What about with 3 members back? You'll need this to really understand and model different scenarios, because we don't know when full capacity is going to come back, and we don't know whether or not our ability to sell is going to be restricted in the shorter term. Okay, so step 2, planning changes in your business model. So regardless of COVID-19, business is continuously evolving. So you really need to ask yourself the question, does your business model need to change from where it is at this point in time to something different in order to take advantage of an opening market, to take full advantage of the business that is out there. So, are there restrictions on your goods and services? Is the government guideline for your business meaning that you are unable to open fully, meaning that you are restricted in how much you can sell, how much business you can do? And if there are those restrictions in place, how do you overcome them? How can you pivot your business, change your business model in order to overcome those problems? How can you adapt to work within the confines of social distancing, potentially over an extended period of time, and still be profitable? So these are the questions you need to be asking. Is your business model fit for purpose? And if it isn't, how can it be changed, and how can it remain agile so you can change your business model as times change and as we become more and more able to trade? Step 3, so virtual is the new normal. We've heard that so many times now, but the reality is that some of the country's largest organizations are making home working a permanent feature of their workforce. So with that comes the need for reliable home working systems. And yes, that does mean technology, but what about human management? What about managing the workforce who are working remotely from here on in and possibly only coming back into the workplace once a month? What about individual motivation techniques and making sure that staff that opt to work from home and work remotely are both efficient and retain a strong mindset? So really, what do you need to plan in terms of your human resources management to make sure that the working environment for them, no matter what that environment is, suits them adequately and maintains their positive mindset, maintains their motivation, and maintains their ability to remain an efficient asset for the business? Okay, so what about in the workplace? If staff are coming back to the workplace, aside from customers, and we know that there's going to need to be social distancing from the customer perspective, what about the staff maintaining social distancing guidelines? If the workplace or the workspace available doesn't allow for a full complement of staff, how productive can the business be with fewer people there? And this is really where the question over cost versus profit comes in. We really need to be thinking about if we bring one member of staff back, are we able to do enough business with that one member of staff to make it profitable? And if so, what about 2 members of staff? What about 3 members of staff? Okay, so all of these calculations need to be made so that you're planned in advance of starting the business back up. You've got a plan in place so that you know instinctively what needs to happen at what point. Okay, moving on to step 4, cash flow management. Now, again, regardless of COVID-19, keeping an efficient cost base is good practice regardless of what environment we're in. We really need to think about this not just now, but at all times. You know, it's good business sense to make sure that we're running an efficient business model and we're keeping an eye on our cash. But there is 1 or 2 points to bear in mind. Firstly, you know, in terms of keeping as much cash in the business as we possibly can, there can be a tendency to extend credit terms, as it says there on the side. Now, we need to bear in mind that our best suppliers need to be kept happy too. If we can't find that balance, then we're going to end up with disruptive supplies to our own business, and that is never going to be good for our onward sales. Okay, so what government programs are available? These tend to be constantly evolving as well. What are the latest guidelines? What advantage what government help can we take advantage of, whether we need it? How can you sell more to provide cash flow? This is another question you need to ask. And again, it goes back to the confines of selling and how restricted we are in our businesses. And finally, if we're selling on credit, how secure are our customers? If we consider the process that we've been through as a business, and we consider that, you know, in many cases, businesses have struggled, how well do you know your customers? And if you're giving credit, how reliable are they? And how confident are you that you're going to get paid for those goods, because the last thing you need now is to open up, get your business in a position where you're ready to thrive, and end up serving a bunch of customers that then can't pay you and put you back into trouble. Okay, so cash flow management is vitally impossible. And making sure you've got the adequate and the appropriate cost structure in your business in order to go forward with clarity and with safety. Okay. So step 5, start to run, then sprint. So as we're coming back to opening our businesses and getting back into trade, we need to make sure that we start efficiently as possible and be ready to ramp up very, very quickly. Now, what we've seen since the shops opened on Monday is a huge demand for goods and services. I'm sure you've all seen in the headlines the queues and such like, and there is generally an undercurrent of demand in the marketplace. People have been cooped up for a very, very long time. Job losses haven't quite hit home yet, and therefore, when people are feeling fairly safe, they're in a position where they want to get out, want to get back to usual life, and that is characterised by spending money. So there is a strong feeling in the marketplace of desire for business services, and that may well carry on into the future. So, what do you stand to gain or lose, depending on your state of preparedness at this point in time? Okay, so are you prepared to open up in terms of everything we've just discussed, in terms of your cash flow, in terms of your supply of goods and services for onward sale, in terms of your staff, your workforce? How ready are they? How ready is your wider network of support ready to support you as you go forward? All of these questions need to be answered and need to be planned for. And besides your team, suppliers and logistics, what else needs to be planned for so you can ramp up activity in line with phased opening and sharp growth in customers? Because the face of business will have changed. When we open up, there will be businesses that were in the marketplace beforehand that just won't be there anymore. And therefore, there could be, more demand. We could be facing more demand than we had previously. Now, I know we're talking about recession and all the rest of it, but aside from that, there is general demand in the marketplace, and we're seeing that from different sectors all over the business environment. So, on to step 6. Your marketing is going to have to shift. Modern marketing is about adding value, and in the current climate, this becomes even more important. So consistency in your message, your visibility is, as always, going to be key to your successful marketing. So in terms of your marketing, generating inquiries, generating interest in what you're doing, it only does that if you are consistent in what your message is, in getting your message to the marketplace, and ensuring that your message is adding value to that marketplace. So as markets open and businesses position themselves to take advantage, your customers are faced with nothing but the noise of every business in that industry. So if you think about your marketplace full of customers, potential customers, and competition, if everyone involved is firing marketing messages at the customer base or at the prospect base, then all they can hear is white noise. So what can you do? How can your marketing position you differently so that your message is heard above the others? How agile is it? How quickly can you change what you're saying? And what is the cost of your marketing? So in terms of how much does it cost you to acquire each individual customer? These are questions that are really important to ask, because if your marketing is efficient, then your cost acquisition per customer is lower and your profit improves. And if your ongoing marketing and your remarketing to existing customers is as good as it should be, then that's going to underpin your base sales, so that any new customers that come on in this period are effectively less important than they would be if you didn't have repeat business. So how are you marketing? How are you measuring, your KPIs around marketing? So what are the parts of your marketing and your sales process that you're measuring to see whether it's effective or not. So everyone should have a dashboard in place which underpins their marketing, their marketing channels, so that we know what's working, what isn't working, because you don't want to be paying for marketing that isn't working, right? You're better off putting that budget into marketing that is working, generating more leads. So, what is your KPI dashboard like? Is it being used consistently? And do you have a handle on those numbers on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis? Once we've marketed to generate leads, step 7 is all about selling. Okay, so what do we need to plan in our sales process in order to make sure we're taking the best opportunities out there in the marketplace? Okay, and again, modern sales is all about professionally helping people to buy. It's not about selling at all. The old ways of selling, pressuring people into a decision, is just antiquated and not effective anymore. So, when we're marketing, we're adding value. When we're selling, we're looking to highlight the need of the customer, both to ourselves and to them, and identifying from our range of solutions the right solution for them. Okay, so with that in mind, we are selling with compassion at all times. Now, a little bit more about selling. We've all been confined to our offices, warehouses, workshops. We're not generally seeing customers face to face, and therefore a lot of communication is taking place by text and email. Now, in a selling environment, trying to sell via email or via text is a big mistake. And the reason for that is we all have 3 communication tools. We have the words that we use, we have our voice, so our tonality, and we have body language. And of the 3, which do you think is the least important? You got it, it's words. Okay, so words account for 7% of our effectiveness in selling, whereas voice, our tonality, takes care of 38%, and body language 55%. So what that means is that wherever possible, we should be at least on the phone, if not face to face. If not face to face in person, then face to face on a virtual platform, so that we can get across our point and we can take people through on a journey, and they can see everything about us, not just the words that we use. You've probably all had scenarios in the past where texts have gone backwards and forwards, and before you know it, there's an argument because the words were taken in the wrong vein, because there's no tonality. You can't put any feeling into it. Okay, so plan a sales process which caters to what your customer needs, not what you want to sell. And in that process of selling to them, make sure you're selling with compassion. Make sure you're fitting their needs to your product or services, rather than your product or services. You're fitting your product and services to their needs rather than the other way around. And build relationships. If we're selling in this way, we are continuously building relationships, and on average it's 7 times cheaper to serve a returning customer than it is to acquire a new one. So if you want to make your marketing really cheap, then focus on retaining your customers for long periods of time. Okay, so how much of this have you done in your business? How much is already in your business now, and how much needs to be implemented in? Make those plans and get them in place. Okay, so step 8, repeat business, and how we create that. So what is your strategy for keeping your customers coming back? Now, building rapport, following up, and going above and beyond the call of duty creates lifetime customers and keeps them coming back. So in the same vein as our sales process, once we've served a customer, the journey doesn't end there. The relationship doesn't end there. That is just the first part of the relationship. Now, continuing to build that relationship and adding those bits and pieces that the competition aren't is highly valuable to your business. So, keep them coming back. Take the opportunity while things might be a bit quieter to develop your augmented product or service lines. Okay, so the critical non-essentials that become a key part of the whole. By doing this, you're going to create raving fans for your business. Your customers will become your raving fans, and that's when they go marketing for you. Okay, so when I'm talking about augmented product or service lines, we each have a core product or service. The augmentation of that product or service are the things that we can add on to add customer service, to add value, that are easy for us to do. Things like guarantees, things like the extra little touches that we can add, things like a thank you card, things like birthday cards and stuff like that. All those little things that are critical non-essentials that we can add to our product and service line to go the extra mile. Okay, so build on brand loyalty by exceeding expectations in customer service, and you'll have customers for a very, very long time. So this is what we want to do, is keep all our existing customers. We want to go above and beyond and build loyalty, and there it says the critical non-essentials. So step 9, get the most from your people. But, and it is a big but, don't forget that your workforce have also had a rough time. So there's compassion required here, and that is the way to get the most of them, to make sure that they're okay. Make sure that they're coming back in good shape, and that their fears are taken care of, that they're ready to go. Now is really the time to be a real leader, because how you show up for your staff now is going to be taken on board by them for a very, very long time. Okay, so provide your returning staff with the help that they need, both mentally and physically, if necessary. If you're in an environment where you need PPE, make sure you're supplying that. Lead with compassion. If there are fears, if there are doubts about coming back, talk about those, get those out in the open. Don't force people, but get them coming back on their terms, with a view to helping you. Okay, and if you treat your people right, they'll treat you right. Okay, ideally you want to keep as many of your workforce as you possibly can, particularly if they've gone the extra mile for you in the past. It's really, this business is the economy is going to come back. There's a general consensus of opinion that the economy is going to bounce fairly quickly in most sectors. And with that in mind, the staff, if you let good staff go now, you might have trouble getting them back in the future. So really look after your staff in order to get the most out of them. Step 10, build a strong mindset. The strength of your mind determines the depth of your desperation. The weaker the mind, the deeper the desperation. True words there. So how do you do that? A really good idea here is to build routine into your working life. It leaves no time for doubts and fears to creep in. So by that, I mean daily rituals. I mean, morning routine that might take on some sort of exercise, some sort of positive affirmations, perhaps yoga or meditation. These are all really calming influences that will prepare you for a proactive day ahead. Focus on the opportunities and not on the threats. If you focus on letting the threats in, then guess what? The threats are going to come in. So focus on the opportunities, not the threats. If you've made your business safe and done your planning, the threats will be taken care of anyway. So really that routine that you can get yourself into, whereby you're constantly busy doing the right things in your business, that's not going to give you any time to think about what could go wrong. If you've planned it appropriately, then you've taken yourself out of as much threat as possible. Okay, so what are the steps you need to take now? Well, if you can see now, we're at this point in time, we're really in phase 3 of the process of getting back to work and getting back to work at full capacity. So the things that you might need in your business are really going to be important in your business and for you personally at this point in time are listed here. So personally, it's having that default diary in place so that you've got that routine, so that you're doing the right things in the business at the right time, and you're not leaving room for anxiety to creep in. Having the right mindset. We could have done a lot of damage to ourselves in the last 13 weeks that we've been locked down. And, you know, there's been a lot of anxiety around whether business will survive, whether we've got enough money in the bank to survive and all the rest of it. So taking care of mindset, vitally important. Prepare mentally for the sprint phase, because it's likely that very quickly you're going to be busier than you have been in a very, very long time. And of course, what tends to suffer when that happens, when we get so busy, is our own personal care. So this is vitally important. We can't hope to work at 110% for any period of time if we're not taking care of ourselves in between. Okay. So what about from a business perspective? Well, we need to get ready for what we've just talked about, having the staff return, ramping up the marketing, being different to our market, to the rest of the competition in the marketplace, and looking for those opportunities that are going to arise. As we go forward into the sprint phase, when the market opens up fully, we're going to have to need to have energy. We're going to have clarity and focus on our direction. We're going to have to be committed to the tasks that face us. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind by other businesses that are taking advantage of that. So really, now's the time to be real leaders in our businesses. Take ownership of the situation. We need to lead from the front. We need maximum effort, both on our own part and from our staff. We need to focus on our existing clients. They're the ones that got us where we are. They're the ones that are going to help us keep going forward. Okay, and then we need to think about how our marketing is going to change as a phase of business changes. And we need to continue testing and measuring. So having that test and measure, that KPI dashboard in place is going to be vitally important. And then as we leave COVID-19 behind us and we get back into the routine and the flow and ebb of business, we're back to normal. What happens then? Do we just relax and take life easy again, or do we compete and grow in our marketplace? Regardless of COVID-19, you're either growing in business or you're dying. Because if you're just standing still doing nothing, then your competition is catching you up, because they're proactive and they're going to be catching up. So think of this, and the instructions from this webinar as more of a long-term plan for your business, not just a here and now. Okay, step 11, take action. So what does that mean? It's now time to take action. If you haven't already started with any of this stuff, now's the time to do that. Sort the next 30 days as quickly as you can. You'll thank me for it later. Get it down on paper. A plan in your head isn't a plan, it's a hope. And detail strategies and actions. Give yourself an instruction list for all the things that you need to take care of, and tick those off as you get them done. Communicate and do it now. And to finish up, this is the kind of things and the kind of help that you get from me. If you need to create a 30-day business strategy plan and you want some tips and help around that, then you can book a gifted session with me on my Calendly link, which can be found on my website, or we'll be following up with an email after the weekend, and the link will be on there. There'll also be a link to complete a feedback form. I'll be grateful if you can do that. And before we sign off, we've got time. If there are any questions, then please chuck them into the chat box. And I'll give you just 30 seconds. If nothing comes up, then I'll assume there are no questions. And aside from that, if you do complete the feedback form and we get that back, then by return, we'll give you an ebook written by Brad Sugars on the 10 top strategies to put into business to thrive going forward. So there are no questions coming in. So with that in mind, we will sign off. And like I say, the book is there for those that fill in the feedback form. So it just remains for me to say thanks very much for joining me tonight. Hope you got something out of it. And any questions or queries you have, or anything that you want to go back over on a personal level, then you know where to contact me, and you'll receive an email from my marketing team probably tomorrow or after the weekend. So have a great evening, folks. Enjoy the weekend coming up, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.